In the previous episode, Bonnie lost her life while trying to bring Jeremy back to life. Elena shoved the cure down Katherine's throat, turning her back into a human. Shockingly, Stefan turned out to be Silas's doppelganger. Seeking revenge, Silas trapped Stefan in a safe and dumped him into a lake, then returned to town posing as Stefan. The story picks up from the last episode with Katherine on the run, desperately trying to evade Silas's pursuit. Katherine, on the run, is discovered by a woman, who immediately pulls out pepper spray and attacks her. Even though Katherine has become human again, she will still unleash her survival instincts to their fullest. Just then, Matt arrived with a gun, leaving Katherine no choice but to surrender. Every time Stefan briefly comes back to life while buried at sea, he imagines being with Elena, and that fantasy gives him the strength to endure the suffering. But each short-lived dream is followed by suffocating and dying all over again. Damon deduced that his brother was trapped in the lake, but even with Sheriff Forbes's help, finding him was like searching for a needle in a haystack. The thought of Stefan repeatedly drowning all summer, while he and Elena enjoyed each other's company, filled Damon with guilt, prompting him to pressure Sheriff Forbes further.
I'll get some deputies on it.
At this moment, Jeremy brought good news. Matt had captured Katherine. Damon instructed them to hide her, as she was their leverage against Silas. In a bid to survive, Katherine first tried to cozy up to them, then attempted to seduce them. But neither Matt nor Jeremy showed any interest. Katherine, who was tied up, was very desperate. Katherine, who had first appeared in pursuit of the precious Moonstone, was now the hotly contested Moonstone herself. Meanwhile, Elena and Caroline were secretly investigating Megan's death, only to discover that the death certificate listed it as a suicide. The doctor who signed the certificate was either compelled by hypnosis or deliberately covering up the truth about vampires. Coincidentally, this doctor was also a professor at the university, so they planned to dig deeper. The professor's name was Maxfield. He singled out Elena and Caroline, the two freshmen, and intentionally gave them a difficult question, bluntly telling them they should start with basic classes. When Damon found out, he encouraged Elena to teach this arrogant professor a lesson. During their phone conversation, Silas approached Elena. Just as Damon was about to reveal the truth to her, Silas used his mind control powers to compel Elena to hang up. Under Silas's influence, Elena disclosed where Jeremy might be hiding. As night fell, Damon arrived at the school to find Elena unharmed but ravenously eager. Damon can't resist her passion, but his reason tells him that now is not the time for fun. Elena impatiently tore at his clothes, then opened a bottle of liquid and poured it into Damon's mouth. Damon felt his insides burning. The drink was poisoned with vervain. In his weakened state, Damon quickly realized that Elena had been compelled.
What does Stefan tell you to do?
Get you alone, weaken you, and then kill you.
Meanwhile, Silas found Jeremy and Matt's campsite based on the location Elena had given him. Matt, who was out checking the area, was the first to spot him. Silas ordered Matt to stay silent, but to his surprise, Matt was immune to his control and shouted for Jeremy to run. Inside the camp, Jeremy immediately started moving Katherine to a safer location. However, Silas became intrigued by Matt. Silas entered Matt's mind, browsing through his memories, and discovered that Matt had already been possessed by someone else.
Why are you watching me, traveler? What to me?
After Matt died, his soul separated from his body, but fortunately, he had been wearing the resurrection ring before his death. As a ghost, Matt encountered Bonnie, and that's when he learned that Bonnie had died months ago. They were both trapped in the other side, a prison for lost souls. Bonnie warned Matt that he needed to find his body and reunite with it quickly. But as Matt looked around, he realized his body wasn't there.
It's because each time you die, you wake up farther and farther away from it. And you wander the other side until you find it.
Before searching for his body, Matt gave Bonnie a hug, finally understanding that she had always been quietly sacrificing herself, even now as a spirit staying by their side. Jeremy eventually found Matt's body, and upon seeing the resurrection ring, he breathed a sigh of relief. At that moment, Silas caught up to them. As a vampire hunter, Jeremy was immune to Silas's compulsion, and his mind was impervious to being invaded. Silas mocked Jeremy's naivete, saying that those who can be used tend to live longer. Jeremy wasn't planning on running anymore. Since Silas's powers had no effect on him, Confident in his hand-to-hand combat skills, Jeremy believed he could take Silas down, and the two began to brawl. Although Silas was at a disadvantage in close combat, being an immortal, he used self-harm to seriously injure Jeremy. Just when things seemed dire, Katherine returned and fired several shots, knocking Silas down. At the same time, Bonnie guided Matt to find his body. Bonnie wasn't worried that Matt would reveal her death because once his soul re-entered his body, he would forget everything about the other side. Before they parted, Matt urged Bonnie to stop hiding the truth, saying that everyone deserved to know about all her sacrifices. Bonnie only smiled as she said goodbye. Matt's soul returned to his body, and as expected, he forgot everything that had happened in the other side. Katherine hurriedly urged them to escape while Silas was still unconscious. On the other side, Elena was being compelled by Silas to seduce and torment Damon. Her mind was still her own, but her body was beyond her control. With no other choice, Damon confessed to Elena that Silas had been impersonating Stefan, and he encouraged her to fight the compulsion. Elena resorted to mimicking Stefan's technique of self-harm to maintain her sanity. However, upon learning about Stefan's dire situation, Elena's guilt caused her to break down. In her frantic state, Elena broke a gas pipe and tried to ignite the gas to blow them both up, but 2 matches in a row failed to light. To distract her, Damon brought up Stefan, hoping to shift her focus. There had always been a connection between the doppelgängers. During Stefan's repeated drownings, Elena would dream about him, feeling a coldness and suffocation. Elena's guilt toward Stefan helped her resist Silas's compulsion. Damon breathed a sigh of relief, but just then, Caroline returned to the dorm, feeling utterly speechless at the sight before her. Silas, now revived, made his way to a gas station, where the owner, under his control, willingly offered his blood. Just then, the 2 witches who had taken over Matt's body approached. Silas immediately recognized who they were, gypsies. The travelers were a faction of witches, and Silas was the common enemy of all witches. Silas was fearless because he had already foreseen what was about to happen. Nadia suddenly killed her companion without hesitation, while Silas's expression remained unchanged.
I know you can see inside my mind. And I have my own agenda.
Elena took a few days off from school to search for Stefan, and before leaving, she happened to run into Maxfield. Maxfield expressed his admiration for Elena's adoptive father. Maxfield is definitely someone with secrets. After Damon and Elena returned to town, they received word from Sheriff Forbes that the iron safe containing Stefan had been recovered ahead of them. With a mix of anticipation and hope, they opened the safe, only to find a blood-soaked corpse inside. Meanwhile, Stefan staggered into a bar, where the female bartender was preparing to close up, only to notice the guest staring intently at her. Black veins began to appear slowly around Stefan's eyes, and he sank his fangs into the woman's neck, greedily sucking her blood. This was the instinct of a vampire. But Stefan's lingering humanity forced him to release the woman. No sooner had she run out of the bar than Stefan regretted letting her go. However, the sun had already risen, and without the protection of a daylight ring, his skin began to blister and burn inch by inch as he was about to be consumed by the sunlight. At that moment, Elena woke up from her dream, and she immediately told Damon about what she had seen. This revelation stirred a hint of jealousy in Damon. Elena feared that Stefan might perish just as he had in her dream, but Damon dismissed her concerns. To their surprise, Katherine showed up, revealing that she had experienced the same dream. Could this be a connection between the doppelgängers? Determined to get answers, they decided to investigate the bar from the dream. Katherine and Elena hated each other, and this trip was bound to be full of verbal sparring. When they arrived at the bar, Katherine had fallen asleep in the car. Elena and Damon went inside and discovered that the bartender, Joe, did indeed have bite marks on her neck. This confirmed that everything Elena saw in her dream had actually happened. Did that mean Stefan had already turned to ashes? Under compulsion, Joe recounted the events that followed. Just as Stefan was about to combust, a woman arrived and took him away, and the car she drove belonged to a nearby motel. Joe poured Damon a drink, but to his shock, it was laced with vervain, causing him to lose his strength instantly. The mastermind then appeared. It was Nadia, one of the travelers. At that very moment, Katherine, now awake, entered the bar as well.
Which one of you is Catherine Pierce?
She is.
Catherine is a compulsive liar, but I need her alive.
Elena stepped up to protect Katherine. Unexpectedly, Nadia was not only a witch, but also a vampire. But vampires and witches could not coexist, could they? Was this some unique ability of the travelers? Damon had not yet fully recovered, so Elena asked Damon to find Stefan while she went to rescue Katherine. Damon repeatedly reminded Elena,
Any sign of trouble, you let her go. Do you understand me? I don't care how bad Silas wants Katherine. She's not worth the hair in your head. You got me? Okay?
Elsewhere, Stefan, upon waking, immediately urged the woman to run for her life, only for her to toss him a bag of blood. That's when Stefan realized that she was the one who had rescued him from the bottom of the lake. The man whose neck Stefan had bitten off was the owner of the motel. The woman not only knew about Stefan's ordeal, but was also aware that he was Silas's doppelganger. At the mention of Silas, rage flared in Stefan. He was determined to find and exact revenge on Silas, but without a daylight ring, he couldn't walk under the sun. At that moment, the woman said to Stefan,
He used to be a simple man, in love with a simple girl. His soulmate. She was his one true love. Silas wasn't always a monster.
Stefan was stunned by her words. He had heard rumors about Silas's past, that Silas's original lover was a wicked witch. They had invented the immortality elixir together, but Silas had betrayed her by giving the immortality that was meant for the witch to another woman. Stefan never expected that the woman before him was actually Silas's true love. He was overwhelmed with excitement. If Silas's true love was still alive, then bringing her to Silas would solve everything. But the woman's next words chilled Stefan to the bone.
I never said that I was his. I'm Qetsiyah. That's sane.
He had thought he'd found a savior, but it turned out the woman was actually Qetsiyah, the wicked ancient witch from the legends. Qetsiyah's rage spilled over, and in later legends, she was portrayed as a venomous woman who stood in the way of true love, even though it was Silas who betrayed her first. They were once the most powerful witches among the travelers. Together, they created 2 doses of an immortality elixir, which they planned to consume on their wedding day. But Silas never showed up, and he stole the immortality elixir. The heartless man abandoned her and shared immortality with another woman. After relentless searching, Qetsiyah finally found their whereabouts, only to discover that the one who had stolen her happiness and immortality was none other than her handmaiden.
Just as you are mine, I'm yours forever. Because when I look at you, Imara, all I see is an angel.
Qetsiyah had returned from the other side solely for revenge. Stefan thought she seemed a bit unhinged and had no interest in hearing more about their tragic love story. All he wanted was for Qetsiyah to help him make a daylight ring. Qetsiyah's goal was revealed, and she knocked Stefan out. Meanwhile, Elena managed to find Katherine first. Katherine had always wondered why, after Elena forced her to take the cure, she didn't finish her off. Elena said that the biggest difference between them was that she still had her humanity. Katherine scoffed at her, calling her a hypocrite. Turning into a human was a punishment worse than death. You wanted me to live a life worse than hell. As they were arguing, Nadia caught up to them and snapped Elena's neck. When Damon found Stefan, Qetsiyah was setting up a ritual. The vines binding Stefan would connect him to Silas, allowing Qetsiyah to strip Silas of his power.
Without Silas's mental powers, he is an immortal nobody. We can defeat him. Isn't that what you want?
Let's just do it, all right?
At the same time, Silas intercepted Nadia and Katherine. Nadia, surprisingly, was willing to risk her life to protect Katherine, but Silas used compulsion to command Nadia to end her own life. Suddenly, Silas felt a piercing headache. Qetsiyah was using Stefan as a conduit to burn Silas's brain. Confused, Nadia and Katherine took the opportunity to escape. Silas and Stefan both started bleeding from their eyes, ears, and nose, while Damon was filled with anguish, but dared not interrupt Qetsiyah's spell. When the ritual finally ended, Damon prepared to take Stefan away. Qetsiyah taunted him, saying that she had been watching the doppelgängers throughout the ages from the other side. No matter how far apart they would always find each other like magnets. The attraction between doppelgängers was their fate. Damon maintained a calm demeanor, insisting that he didn't believe in the doppelganger prophecy. Qetsiyah bluntly said that Damon was just like her. Qetsiyah offered to help Damon, promising that if he left Stefan with her, she could make sure that he and Elena would never be together. Damon was tempted. He glanced back at his brother, then, without hesitation, launched an attack on Qetsiyah. But how could he possibly be a match for a witch? When Damon regained consciousness, Qetsiyah was already gone. Elena arrived, but her eyes were only on Stefan, and she didn't even glance at Damon. When Silas woke up, he realized he had lost his mind-reading abilities, and the only person capable of doing that was Qetsiyah. Silas had no choice but to lower himself and call Nadia, trying to persuade her to hand over Katherine and stay out of this mess, warning that otherwise Qetsiyah would target her too. Nadia mocked him, suggesting, "Why don't you two get back together? Then I'll immediately surrender and give you Katherine on a silver platter." Katherine, furious, grabbed the phone and demanded to know why Silas was relentlessly chasing her. It turned out that Katherine's blood was the cure. Just like Elena once was, Katherine had become a walking, living blood bag. Meanwhile, Matt frequently experienced memory lapses. When he woke up, he found himself covered in mud, with a dagger in his pocket. This was because a traveler was inhabiting Matt's body, the very same one that Nadia had personally killed, Nadia's backup plan. Damon confessed to Elena about the doppelgänger's fate. Elena laughed it off, thinking Damon was jealous, and quickly reassured him that her love for him wouldn't waver. Although Damon said he didn't believe in that destiny crap, his trembling voice betrayed him. He was genuinely feeling threatened. Just as things were heating up between them, Stefan woke up. Facing Damon and Elena's hopeful gazes, Stefan seemed confused and a bit guarded.
We missed you.
Sorry. I have no idea who you people are.
It turned out that Stefan had lost his memory, likely due to Qetsiyah's magic frying his brain. Damon decided to take Stefan on a road trip to jog his memory. Stefan teased that his brother drove too slowly, insisting, "Between the two of us, I must be the fun one." Damon chuckled and then launched into a high-speed, death-defying drive. The brothers were thrown several meters from the car, with Damon proving through action that he was indeed the more entertaining one.
I got it. You're the fun brother.
Elsewhere, Caroline intentionally got close to Maxfield's assistant, Jesse, in order to investigate Megan's death. Damon spent an entire day trying to help Stefan rebuild his memories. Elena showed up as well, but Stefan was unresponsive to her affectionate greetings. Damon awkwardly explained that he hadn't yet gotten to the part about their relationship. In truth, Stefan's amnesia might be a blessing, offering him a chance at a fresh start, but Elena insisted on helping him regain his memories. She wanted to seek Bonnie's help, but couldn't get through on the phone. That's because Bonnie was already dead. Damon had a different perspective. While they were arguing, Stefan suddenly disappeared, along with a waitress. Luckily, Damon stopped Stefan just in time because if Stefan tasted human blood, there would be no turning back. Meanwhile, Matt, who was possessed by a traveler, had lost some of his memories. A finely crafted dagger appeared on him out of nowhere, and he mistakenly thought that his multiple resurrections had resulted in the emergence of a new personality. Terrified, Matt sent numerous emails to Bonnie but never received any replies. Matt had no choice but to find Jeremy, who dared not tell him the truth and had to continue lying. Soon Damon secretly urged Jeremy to tell Bonnie to hurry back home. Everyone was hoping Bonnie would show up and save the day, but the truth cannot stay hidden forever. Jeremy, with a heavy tone, asked Damon to meet him alone, promising to explain everything. When Damon arrived, Jeremy began to set the stage for revealing Bonnie's death, admitting that he had been the one writing all the replies. His resurrection had come at a heavy cost for Bonnie. Damon was a smart man, and he quickly sensed what was coming. Jeremy had prepared enough, and he was ready to deliver the news about Bonnie's death.
Don't say it, Jeremy. Don't you dare.
He's Jeremy.
Bonnie's dead.
Even though Damon had already suspected it, he still found himself unable to accept the truth when Jeremy finally said it out loud. Damon walked angrily towards Jeremy and then gave him a big hug. Elena took Stefan to relive their first meeting as if they had gone back to the past. But Stefan didn't want to rehash old memories. So, Elena brought Stefan to Wickery Bridge, the place where their relationship began and where they had experienced so much together. Stefan was deeply drawn in by their story, feeling no hunger at all. In Elena's retelling, he was the perfect boyfriend, and Stefan found himself moved by the emotions. But just as he leaned in to kiss her, Elena took a step back. Elena only shared the beautiful parts of their past, leaving out the details of how she gradually fell in love with Damon. After lighting the fire, Elena quickly poured cold water on it, which was nothing short of a second betrayal to Stefan. With a calm expression, Stefan said, "The hunger is back." Elena turned around, only to find that Stefan was already gone, his anger having transformed into a thirst for blood. Meanwhile, Matt groggily woke up and found a startling wound on his palm. He quickly checked the footage. In the video, his unconscious self received a phone call, after which his eyes went dark as if he had become someone else, speaking a language he didn't even understand. When the person in the video noticed the camera, he gave a sly look and casually greeted Matt directly.
I am the passenger inside you. I know you have many questions, but all you need to know is that one day, my friends will come looking for this blade. Protect it at all costs, or this will be your throat.